Welcome to my brand new off-grid purpose-built studio. Now this thing's not finished yet. In fact, there's stuff everywhere behind the camera and you can see in this B-roll footage. But I've got to keep making videos. This studio is by no means big. In fact, I can actually touch both walls at the same time whilst sitting in this chair. I can't do these walls, but I can do that one, and I'm not that far away from the one behind the camera. But it is certainly a lot bigger than my previous one. I mean, I can stand up for a kickoff. This means to maximize space, I still need a pretty small shooting rig. And being as the studio is off-grid, it also needs to be battery powered. The camera's pretty easy, already battery powered, and the runtime is fairly decent. This I'm shooting on now is the X100V, and if you want to know why I'm using basically a photography camera for video, then watch this video up here. The microphone, again, pretty simple. You can see it in shot here. This is the Rode Video Micro 2 and it's not battery powered. It just plugs directly into the camera, so no syncing either. Lighting, however, is where it gets a little more tricky. Now, I could use something like this, or this, or this, and palm-sized battery-powered lights are nothing new. In fact, as you can see, I have a bunch of them. But the problem with these is the low output and short runtime. Low output generally means they're unsuitable to use as a key light, for example. And the short runtime means that they're pretty likely to run out while you're still in the middle of a take. It's long been a dream of mine to have my lighting completely battery powered. In fact, that's why I bought these Joby lights in the first place. And I will link a video up here that shows exactly how that went. And with this new off-grid studio, it's kind of a necessity. I've built several rigs in the past trying to achieve this, and ultimately I've ended up switching back to mains powered lighting. But all this might be about to change. When ZHIYUN reached out to me to see if I was interested in testing out their CM25 and CX100 Cinepeer lights, you could say I was more than a little bit interested. They were kind enough to send me one of each of the lights free of charge, but this video is not sponsored. Now, it is worth mentioning I have a 1 kilowatt EcoFlow battery, which I paid for myself, to run all of the electrics in the studio, but if you're going to start running cameras and mics and lights off it, it's going to deplete pretty quickly. I'm also aware that I could come up with some sort of V-mount battery solution and that would probably run for hours and hours, but on a production my size, which is just me, that isn't really feasible. So my current rig looks like this. Bear in mind, this is subject to change, as really this is the first video I've shot in this space and it's still a mess. First off, I have the Rode Video Micro 2 mounted to an Elgato low profile arm with one of the arm pieces removed. Currently it's in shot and I don't know if it's going to stay like that, but running from that is a cable directly into the camera to capture audio straight into camera. Again, as I mentioned previously, that's running into the Fujifilm X100V, and that's attached to one of these Joby ball head mounts, which I've mentioned a bunch in other videos. I love these things. And that's sitting on top of a Manfrotto tripod, which I've modified so that it can be weighted at the bottom and stand up very narrowly. I've also added wheels so I can move it about. Then I have the Cinepeer CX100 over there as a key light, and that's mounted on a handheld Rode tripod just on some shelves. And then finally, just to the left of me here, I have the Cinepeer CM25 as a kind of fill or backlight in this area. Those are the only two lights that are light in this space. I've got blinds over both the windows, so all of the light that you are seeing is from both the Cinepeer lights here and here. Let's start with the bigger light, the CX100. Although when I say bigger, it's actually pretty compact for the power output. The CX100 is a 100 watt single LED chip battery powered video light that weighs just 710 grams. Its 4,500 mAh non-removable battery can power the 100 watt light on full brightness for up to 30 minutes. Or you can double that runtime to about an hour if you use it on 60 watts. Right now, I have it on nowhere near that. In fact, let me have a look. Currently, it's on about 20%. Now, I say about because the only way to tell what the percentage of power you're using on the light is on the dial on the side, and it's not an exact science. But based on those runtimes, if you are like me and you make a bunch of mistakes when you're shooting, the likelihood is the light's still going to be running when you do your third, fourth, and fifth take. The irony is that piece to camera took 2 takes. The CM25 is a much smaller, lower powered multi-chip LED light, and it weighs just 232 grams. However, as the name suggests, it still packs a whopping 25 watts of power. At full brightness, the CM25 can also run for about 30 minutes from its inbuilt 2000 mAh battery. And if you're using it as, say, like a key or a hair light on 5%, it can run for over 3 hours. Both lights have a battery indicator on the side, so you know when you're running low on power. If you do run out of juice, you can power the lights using USB-C with PD fast charging. And in the case of the CX100, you've also got a DC input, so if you do want to run it as a mains powered light, then you've got the option to do so, although you will need a separate DC adapter. Both lights allow you to continue using them whilst plugged in, so again, if you want to extend that runtime, you can do so off of something like a power bank, for instance. The large batteries are not the only reason for the extended runtime, however. One of the main problems with small battery powered lights like this, although they can kick out reasonable brightness, is that they overheat pretty quickly, and then they either have to shut off or at least dim down. The same thing happens with small flashlights like this. They can do high power for a short amount of time, and then they get too hot and they have to shut down or at least go to a really, really low light level. Basically, regardless of size, whether it's something small or something a little bit bigger, most of these battery powered lights suffer from overheating. That's not something that you're going to have to worry about in either of the Cinepeer lights, however, because they have inbuilt fans and they are ultra quiet. I mean, I'm serious. Listen. In fact, if you don't believe me, listen to this fan running. Silence. The CX100 and CM25 are also bi-colour lights, so you can run them either warm or cool, and they've both got a dedicated dial on the side so that you can tune that in. And that's located right next to the brightness control. On the CM25, that also acts as the on-off. A click will turn it on and all the way to full brightness, and then back again and a click to turn it off. That said, regardless of whether you're using the CX100 or the CM25, it is a little bit fiddly to tune in the perfect brightness. Not very easy to replicate as it's just a dial. There's no digital readout on either of these. In fact, on the CX100, it's very difficult to get it to a really low brightness. Whereas you could go something like 5% on the CM25, you're not going to quite be able to get it that low on the CX100 before it just goes to nothing. So that would be my only criticism, is that it's difficult to get a perfect level of brightness on the CX100. It may not have escaped your attention that the CX100 is very similar to the ZHIYUN X100 Pro, and they share a lot of similarities. One of the differences there is that the X100 Pro does have a digital readout, and therefore it is a little bit easier to fine-tune that brightness. Same thing goes for when you're trying to dial in the color temperature, but again, that's one of the cost savings of getting the CX100 over the X100 Pro. A similar comparison can be made between the CM25 and the M40, although the M40 is of course a little bit brighter because it's a 40 watt light instead of a 25 watt light. The M40 though doesn't have an additional screen, it's just got the extra power and it's got a few more LEDs, and I think that's how it gets that much brighter. It also has an articulating arm very similar to the one on this light, which the CM25 doesn't have. So let's talk about the starting price. The CM25 starts at £69 or $69, and the CX100 starts at £199 or $199. But if you're quick and you're watching this video as it's released, there are links in the description down below that can give you up to 35% off. In the box for the CX100 is included a mini reflector and a silicon light dome. These are mounted to the light using the ZHIYUN mount system, which is exactly the same as on the X100 Pro. This means you can mix and match. If you've got an X100 Pro or a CX100, you can get the accessories for either. And there's a bunch of them, including soft boxes, barn doors, a bunch of stuff. There's also a Bowens mount adapter, which means you can use standard Bowens mount accessories from other brands on the CX100 and the X100 Pro, of course. The CX100 also, of course, comes with a USB-C to USB-C adapter to be able to charge the thing, but no plug in the box. And again, if you want that DC input, you're going to have to provide your own. When it comes to the CM25 accessories, it comes with a silicon diffuser and the USB-C to USB-C cable, and not a lot else. If you, like me, have a very small studio and you need to save space, then these lights could be perfect. Or let's say you want a really compact mobile shooting rig that's completely battery powered. Well, again, one of these two lights might fit that bill. The fact that I've shot this entire video with both lights running continuously and the fans haven't actually even cut in yet is incredible. And I've been shooting pretty much now for about 40 minutes and there's no signs of either the fans kicking in or the batteries dying. In fact, let's have a look. The CM25 still showing 4 bars of battery, and I'll check the CX100. Well, the CX100 is down to 3 out of 4 bars, so I guess it's used some amount of power, but it seems like it's probably going to last quite significantly longer than I'm going to continue shooting this video, because I'm afraid that's it for this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Would you buy one of these two lights? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.